Welcome back to the Tailosive EV podcast, ladies and gentlemen. We have as good as quality control as Fremont around here, and we're going to make sure that this podcast happens. How are you guys doing?
Man, the panel gaps are so obvious. I think we need to return all of the episodes we've ever done because these panel gaps are atrocious.
Yeah, there definitely needs to be a pause. Just work on the quality control, figure out why nothing is working, and then everything is working. And then hand it to service, and they'll figure it out.
They can
exactly. They'll fix it all.
Mm-hmm.
So how are you two doing? We need to talk about what exactly is going on over at Inside EVs. Evidently, I am in the presence of two titans. Well, the husbands of two titans of industry.
Kind of, yeah.
Both of your wives. Correct. I was just scrolling through Twitter, as one does on the beautiful Saturday morning that we record. And I saw your wife, Drew, and your wife, Mike. Their face is in the thumbnail for an article on a Tesla EVs, Insider EVs article. And I was like, oh, I know those people. I guess they are famous. So you guys are not famous. I'm sorry to say that, Drew. I know you think you're famous with your big audience, but your wife.
You could hear my voice technically.
And
maybe Mike's voice off in the distance talking to a Tesla employee or something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but that's not as cool as, Louise.
No, it isn't.
I mean,
Mike's wife.
Carrie and Louise did do all the work to get all this fame. I
must say, we didn't plan that in the video.
We didn't.
we were mainly expecting me and Mike. Thanks, Mike, for setting that up. By the way, we were meeting up for a weekend, and he was just like, "What do you want to do?" And I was the last time we visited, he had talked about seeing the 7-seater because we had talked so much about it. I know it's really just two little chairs in a car, and that doesn't sound like a big deal, but we've been making videos on it for months and potentially over a year now, and leaked pictures and how are they going to do the 7-seater. So the idea that there was one in the area that we could go check out, I was just like, that might be fun. And we did it on my wife's birthday, of all days. This was supposed to be her day. And I was like, I'm sorry, honey, I didn't realize it was going to happen on your actual birthday. And she was like, I don't care, whatever. And it was just going to be me and Mike basically try to fit and then maybe drive it around, and then we call it a day. But then me and Mike tried to fit and got awkwardly uncomfortable in about 10 seconds. And so we were both like, okay, let's get out. And once we did that, Louise and Carrie were just like, now I got to try it. Now let me see if I can fit in the back. And they had about 5 times more thoughts than we did on the
as the more intelligent people do typically.
That's accurate. But
we didn't even try folding down the seats either. Like, we sat in them, but we didn't really fold them down and see how much the cargo space is compared to my Y. But it was interesting though.
I did look at it.
Yeah,
it was folded down when we first walked up to it, so we got a couple shots just of the seats folded down, and you basically lose that second floor space coverage, cargo space that you have.
The second hidden area.
Yeah. The first one, the one that goes really deep, is still there, so you could still store a decent amount. But yeah, after sitting it in, I was like, I feel like it's very unfair to consider the Model X and the R1S and the Model Y all as 7-seaters.
Yeah,
it's like
those are very different things.
Huge fine print there.
7 Seatbelts. Maybe not 7 seats.
That's a good way of putting it. It's like 7 seat belts, but different from 7 seats, considering both me and Mike are around the same height, and we had a very hard time. We couldn't even get our heads to the headrest.
Oof. Wow.
We had to keep ducking our head down, but the glass was in the way, so we couldn't quite do it. And Louise is probably the shortest out of the 4 of us, and she was fitting in there okay, but she was the one who also said, you might be able to physically fit someone over 5'6", but that crossbar right in front of you, and you see it in the video, which is a shame because Inside EV is crediting Skitty Papa.
Yeah, okay.
on Reddit.
Exactly. Inside EV, you are getting canceled today. We're canceling lots of people this week. We are canceling Inside EVs because they messed up.
to be fair, they might have fixed the article by the time this podcast goes up. So
this is very true. But I'm looking at the live article right now, and it's still not fixed.
Right now, it's probably not fixed, but if they did fix it, thank you, Inside EVs. We appreciate that. If not, please fix it. That would be nice.
But they fixed it. Oh my gosh! No way.
Oh,
they did.
Refresh the article. They fixed it. Oh, it has your YouTube video and thumbnail and everything. Oh my gosh! They just fixed it.
Justice.
between the time we did the first take of this and now we're on our second take, they fixed it.
That's great.
I love this. Okay.
I'm glad we took
You're uncanceled Inside
second.
EVs. I love you. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Oh my god.
180
And
total 180.
no thanks to Skitty Pop, who stole the video and didn't credit us and just
shout out to you.
He made it seem like he was just he made it seem like he was just at a showroom and recorded it with his phone and then posted it on Reddit, which has happened to me with Reddit specifically several times. I unboxed this PewDiePie chair and someone took a screen grab from my unboxing and posted it in the PewDiePie subreddit, and then it got in PewDiePie's video, and I was just like, no!
That's mine!
That's mine! Anyway, thanks for fixing it, Andre. Looks like is his name.
We appreciate it, man.
So,
thank you.
But
yeah, Louise's concern was with in an accident or with sudden stops. Like, you can see in the video, she hits her head on that bar on the way in. So, it's like, yeah, you can fit, but I wouldn't say it's very safe unless you're under 5'5". And I've been in, like, the Toyota Highlander third row, which is also fairly crammed, but I would say it's miles bigger than the third row.
The Highlander is bigger than... I've been in a Highlander's back row.
Yeah, you notice the shape of that SUV is more like this?
Oh, no. Oh, no.
And not like this?
Oh, no. Okay, I'm curious.
Like,
I actually want to go find one of these because we all know I don't fit in any Model 3 or Model Y to begin with. So
you barely fit in the back row.
Barely fit in the back row of a Model 3. Like, that is an uncomfortable fit. Like, you got to sit in the middle seat. Sorry, man, all those times you get to rub
I got to know your thighs very well.
Yeah, you'd be balled up like a cannonball, Nick, in the back of the 7-seater. It's tiny. And I was surprised.
How tall are you again, Nick?
It depends on what time of day you measure me, but somewhere between 6'6" and 6'8". I'm tallest right in the morning when I first wake up before I stretch my back out and my backbones compress. But
you're taller than I thought.
Yeah,
I think Mike was asking me, and
most people walk up and they say, "Do you play basketball?" And I'm like, "What is up with?" Do I go up and say hello to short people, saying, "Are you a jockey?" No, that's so mean. What? Okay, sorry, little rant. All us tall people unite together. We are tired of being asked if we play basketball because it doesn't look like I play basketball. No, God.
I don't know what it looks like you play.
It looks like I play video games, which I don't.
Video games. But yeah, out of pure comedic factor, I would love to see you try to fit.
I would love to see that too.
Whereas Mike and I could physically fit, it's just extremely uncomfortable. You're the first, I would say it might be literally impossible to close the doors.
Well, if there were two of me in the back, I would not fit. But I know I can fit with both of the seats space. So if I could sit sideways in the chair and have my legs all cramped up and basically be in the fetal position sideways, I know I'd fit. But then it would be a 6-seater.
So basically like getting in the trunk of a Model 3.
Exactly, yeah. Basically, it's just like getting kidnapped. I'd need to reach my hand around on the taillight and wave my hand on the taillight.
We also didn't really show off that the seats can lock in certain distances for the second row because it's on rails.
Yes.
We only showed that it goes all the way to the end and all the way to our knees. So there could be a little bit of hope for Nick and his legs, but I think those legs are going to get crushed.
We did miss. We didn't record all the positions of the second row, but the main reason I didn't really feel like including it was some people were asking about it. It's like, how's the legroom for the second row if it's pushed up? And it's fine. I mean, it's slightly less, but it was not to the point of you should be concerned about the second row not having enough legroom if it's moved up. There's enough. The 7-seater Model Y, your concern should be who can fit in the third, not who can fit in the second. The second will be fine no matter what position the second row is in, unless you're just pushing it completely I don't know why you would want to put people in the third row, but no one in the second row, and some people in the front. I don't know, but don't worry about the second row so much. That's fine.
I should say for the record, I have tried to fit in the Model X's third row, and I don't fit in the Model X's third row. So
at all, or just comfortably?
Not with the seats, the second row pushed. Like if the second row, you know how like they push forward for entry and exit. Like if they're pushed forward for entry and exit, I will fit. But even then, it's like this up against the glass. Wow. There's still glass. Yeah, there's glass in the Model X, and there is like a little bar in front of the Model X's third row. So I do fit upright in it as long as the seats are pushed all the way forward for entry. So I don't think a Model Y would be very good.
I guess we didn't really get a chance to talk about it in person, Mike, but do you think the 7-seater shouldn't have been done, or do you think it's a good option for those who need it?
So when it first got announced, I thought, okay, whatever. And then as time went on, I was like, this probably is a bad idea. Like looking at it from an engineer's perspective, I'm like, this doesn't look safe. And then getting into it, like, yeah, of course, people like me and you are like smushed in there, and our wives as well. Not really the most comfortable seating. But for like a child from maybe like 5 years old to maybe 14, if they're a short teen, I think they could definitely fit. And it might be a good car for around that time. And a lot of people don't really keep their cars for that long. So if you're keeping it for about 10 years, it's perfect. It's the exact car that is safe for kids and adults. It's got a 5-star safety rating. You can't flip that thing over. And even though that your head is pretty close to the glass, they've shown that at least on the 5-seater that the pillars and all the structural joints are really, really strong. And they're not going to crumble around you. Or they're going to crumble around you, but they're not going to crumble into you.
Into you, yeah. That's important.
Yeah.
Okay, fair enough. I guess I'd agree. That's a pretty big age range in there where they're good enough. And, some people just won't grow that tall. So hopefully, if you get lucky, your kid will be short and you won't have to get a new car.
Wow. You really just went there, Drew.
I was just thinking, like, sometimes my wife and I think about it, like, talking about what car we'd want to drive or what car in the future we'd like to get. And it's like, whether or not we have kids and how many kids you have kind of dictates what type of car you have to pick out. It's like, if we never have kids, you could get by with something like an Aptera for decades and be fine. But if you plan on having 3 kids, it's like, you better have a sedan or an SUV or something. And if you plan on having more than 3 kids,
15-passenger
like,
van.
you might,
woo.
You might need something a little even bigger than that. Cyber SUV at that point, get the extra seats in there.
It's slowly becoming a reality.
I hope so.
I hope
so.
It's too expensive to fit 7 adults in a Tesla right now, I think.
Yeah.
If they're going to have so much diversity in the sedan demographic, now with the Model 2 in the works, they could have equal amount of diversity in the SUV demographic as well.
It'd be a nice competitor against the R1S as well. It seems like that seems to be a promising product for the masses in the upcoming future, I guess, for 2021.
Yeah, I want to see it. I'm very curious on the Rivians. I know there's people that are just like, they haven't delivered anything yet, but they got vehicles on the roads. I love seeing them in Long Way Up. I wish Tesla would do more stuff like that, where they just like, here, take the vehicle and drive it around, and just take it across South America and just see how it does, find the weak points. So I love the way they're handling that. I also am a huge fan of how on their website they don't include tax credits and savings and stuff. They just give you the purchase price. I'm like, thank you. We need more companies that just tell you what the purchase price is. And deliveries are soon. Hopefully they open some showrooms near us.
It sounds like there's one that's opening near the Tesla showroom that we're at over the weekend. So
really?
Yeah. Well, the Tesla rep that I was talking to while you were doing the video was saying that Rivian was moving from one of their offices, I forget where in the Bay Area, somewhere in San Jose, up to Palo Alto, almost like 2 blocks away from the Palo Alto showroom. So it sounds like if they're moving the office over there, they might open a service center, or maybe not a service center, but a showroom nearby. It would only make sense.
That would be wonderful. Yeah, I hope so. They've already got the landscape-centered display. 7-seater doesn't cost anything extra, which is really cool. Teslas always have to charge extra. 6-seater costs more than 7-seater in the X.
Well, it's automated seats that move everywhere.
They're better seats, but they are fewer. If you don't need that one extra. Maybe that's better for Nick.
I think what I need is a Model Y with no second row and just a third row. And then that way I'll fit. I'll take up both of the third row seats width-wise, and then length-wise for my legs, I'll have all of the space for my legs. It'll be perfect.
I think what Nick needs is one of these babies.
Baby!
Oh, yeah,
my new favorite
You're right.
toy.
I do need that. I need it very bad.
You could be centered in the middle.
Have all the space.
Have all the leg room, all the screens to look at. Be beautiful.
I am beautiful. Thank you for acknowledging that, Drew. But that would be a beautiful. Would be a beautiful combination, because that is literally the only unreleased Tesla I have seen, and I'm still going to wave that in your face because you guys have seen all of these fun things like third row Model Ys, and Randy's seen the Cybertruck. And I'm just sitting here. That's the one hat I can hang my one peg I can hang my hat on. But you guys have that cool model. That is like totally cool, Drew. Wow. Yes. That is incredible. Like, I saw that online when they first released it, and I was like, ooh, I kind of want that. And I was like, yeah, no, I don't want that.
I stare at it way too much. It's probably not healthy.
I'm sorry that I bought such a distraction.
Yeah, you did. We're gonna milk it as much as possible too. We're gonna try to fit it in like as many videos. If you watch Psych, you know how they put the pineapple in every episode. It's like it's gonna be like that with the Tesla Semi. It's just in the background. It's hanging out. We're gonna put it in the centerpiece of our living room. We're kind of gonna build the plants and the vibe the house is going off of around the Semi.
It is a pretty accurate model. When we were looking at it, Drew, there's a lot of details in there that I didn't think could be modeled in a 26th scale toy.
Yeah.
And I even tried fooling Nick with it. I took a picture trying to get it to where like it had the blue background of the box that it comes in.
It almost worked.
With like,
if it wasn't for my expansive technology knowledge, I would know that I would not know that it was a fake.
And the fact that Drew uploaded it right after or right before I sent the photo
to Twitter,
but
no, I don't.
Or on Twitter
I saw
or
it first
on
on
I think I did a video.
Drew sent it in like invisible ink, or I don't think it was Drew, right? Anyway, someone got it in invisible ink.
I did.
And as I was undoing the invisible ink, I was like, "Oh, that's a cool model."
It did fool my dad, though. For the record, I saw my dad not long after we got back, and I showed him the picture, and he was like, "Whoa, you were inside?" And I was like, "That's a toy." And he was like, "Oh,
it's an adult toy."
I thought you were inside the real thing. I was like, "That would be cool too. If we can schedule a test drive, I'll have to get a Class A license, but I'll do it."
You know, I wouldn't be opposed to having this be my first Tesla. If for some reason I can't get the Cybertruck whenever that comes out, I would not be opposed to just
because it's too expensive.
I would just be opposed to waiting for the $150,000 Semi, because I love the Semi. Like, I would just drive the Semi around and just be obnoxious. People would be like, "Why is there a Semi driving around without a trailer?" And they'd just be like, "Ha! 0 to 60." The 0 to 60 speeds, right? Those were pretty fast on the Semi without a payload. I think 5 seconds.
5 seconds.
Just like.
Mm-hmm. Would you buy a used one, Nick? Like, would you buy one that's been used for maybe 100,000 miles or something like that?
It would really depend on
certified
degradation.
Yeah,
but I wouldn't mind it.
I mean, like, maybe it'd go down to like 300. Like, would you be okay with like a 300-mile range used Semi?
I would get a 300-mile range used Semi for under 80,000. I would say that would be.
Oof.
80,000's the limit?
80,000. Because at that point, I just get a tri-motor Cybertruck and call it a day. But I think at about 80,000 for a used Semi, I'd be like, yeah, that'd be worth it. I mean, I'd rather spend $80,000 on a statement than $80,000 on the world's best truck. But maybe I just get both, because we all know in the future I'm going to be infinitely rich. So, you know, who cares about money at that point?
When I'm sitting on my yacht, I'm not going to be thinking about how much money I have.
You know, that's why I told a group of third graders that I'd pay for their college tuition if they graduate high school.
Yeah, correct.
Scott's Tots reference.
I think My guess is that there's not going to be much of a market of used semis.
Really?
I think once companies get their hands on them, they're going to be holding on to them as much as possible. They're probably going to be kind of a similar launch to the GM EV1. You know, like they start releasing them and everyone's just like, oh, these are great. I love them. Don't get rid of them. And it's not like Tesla's going to take them back and crush them, but
no.
Ignore that part, I guess. Tesla will just be battery constrained and be trying to get out as many as possible. So I think the cost savings will be real. Companies will be like, holy crap, these are way cheaper to operate and they work really well, and we don't have to worry about windshield cracking as much, or brake pads. They're way safer. The impossibility of jackknifing.
True.
The benefits are endless. So I'd be honestly pretty surprised if even like 3 or 5 years after they launch the Semi, there's used ones for like $80,000. I bet they'll still be kind of like how the Model Y is right now. You can find them used, but they are not cheaper. They're
around the same price.
They're like $1,000 or $2,000 less, but they'll have like 50,000 miles on it, and it's like, I'll just go new at that point. But we'll see. We'll find out.
Wonder what the repair cost is going to be on that glass, and then also any of the body work on the Semi as well. If it gets in an accident, or let's just say some thermonuclear explosion happens and cracks the Tesla armor glass somehow. Because apparently it's
get a full refund.
It would be expensive, huh?
Some refund. We'll take your Semi and give you one. I guess so, yeah.
He said that, didn't he?
Yeah, you get a full refund if a nuclear blast breaks the windshield.
Full refund of the vehicle?
That's what he's in the
event. Do you know
event.
how to get your hands on some plutonium?
You know, in the city of Chico, California, if you detonate a nuclear bomb, you will be fined $500.
Wow, that's all? Man, this is a great deal. Okay,
it's a real law. You can look that up. It's a real thing.
So say what I think you're going to say, Nick. No.
We get some plutonium.
Here we go.
We get a loan from a bank. We have to pitch them this plan.
Where's Doc Brown? Where's Doc Brown's Ukrainian sources
we just find
for
the
plutonium?
Libyans, I think. Yeah.
If one of you gets a big enough property in Texas.
No, it has to be in Chico, because I don't want to go to. I want to be able to tell the feds. No. It's just the $500 fine from Chico. Don't FBI, don't get me. It's just the $500 fine in Chico. That's funny.
Okay.
Wonder what the city limits are for Chico.
It didn't say how big the thermonuclear blast had to be. I mean, you can have a really small explosion. I mean, get a big warehouse
blast.
But will it be big enough to break the windshield?
If we place it right on the windshield. I mean,
I'm looking at it right now.
I like the idea. Oh, no.
I love the fact that we spent more than a minute talking about this. And
I know what I wanted to ask you guys about. Did you catch the Elon Musk Joe Rogan podcast?
Yep. Sad news for Nick, and I guess my wife.
What's wrong? Why is Nick yelling?
Messing with the dimensions of my Cybertruck again.
Oh, yeah.
Don't make
you guys are both bummed about that.
Well, my wife is more. I mean, I like big trucks. I like my Ram. And it kind of saddens me that the dimensions of the Cybertruck are shrinking a little bit smaller than my Ram now. They were around the same size. But now it seems like the Cybertruck is going to be almost like a bigger, well, I guess, I don't know, maybe a really large Toyota Tacoma or just a smaller Ram 1500.
It's like a huge Ford Ranger.
Yes.
Don't say that.
It's like a truck that's enormous. I mean, here's the real question, though. Does it upset you if all of the specs they provide are still the same? Like, the bed is still 6.5 feet. They still have the tailgate ramp. The cabin space is still the same amount. The cubic feet of cargo space is still the same amount. It's just physically, I wouldn't argue, maybe smaller isn't the right term. That has a negative connotation.
Maybe they shrunk the volume of the exoskeleton. So instead of being very bulky and beefy, they shrunk at least the distance between the outside of the cast and the inside of it. So maybe that's
what I'm saying.
Yeah.
What if the bed is still 6.5 feet? You still got all the same practicality. They just found a way to shrink all that into a smaller design. Does that still bother you?
I'd be fine with that.
No, I wouldn't, because I would actually want the Cybertruck to be bigger than they showed off. I would.
You intentionally want a big truck. It has nothing to do with the specs.
It has nothing to do with the specs. I want the biggest vehicle. I almost don't want it to fit on the roads. Like, if I could get like the monster truck wheels on the Cybertruck, I might consider doing that. Just like, the Cybertruck is the vehicle that you drive up and you have the speakers blaring the Mad Max music. It's like obnoxious vehicle, and the obnoxious vehicles it needs to be big. Like, people get dually trucks for a reason. I mean, okay, they can tow a little bit more because they have more friction and weight distribution and better suspension. But like, no, people get dualies because they want a thick truck. I want a thick Cybertruck. So make that happen, Elon. Make a version for everyone else that's 3 or 5% smaller, whatever. Make a version for me that's 10% bigger. I would buy that.
That 10%
might just bunch you in.
If they made the original Tesla pickup, Nick, would you have gotten that or thought about getting that? The one that Tesla was basically pickup? They unveiled it at the semi event saying, "Yes, we're making a pickup." And it
dude, I would buy that. I would buy that. Oh, dude. Yeah. It's not Cyber design, though, so...
You could fit a Cybertruck in the back, though.
You could fit a Cybertruck. There we go. Okay. Get a Cybertruck and the OG Tesla pickup. I might do that, honestly, because...
I still cannot tell, after rewatching that event, I cannot tell if they were joking or not.
About what?
With that giant semi pickup.
Well,
the pickup that can fit another pickup in the back.
The distance between the back of the cab of the semi and the kind of license plate area is about 12 or 15 feet. So, like, there's definitely space for a huge bed back there. Definitely could fit a smaller pickup.
The concept they showed wasn't 6 wheels. It was 4.
Okay.
And it had probably about 3 feet of ground clearance, and it was really tall, which makes me, when I look at that, I'm like, maybe that's a joke, because honestly the only thing it had similar to the actual Tesla semi was the front cabin design, but the powertrain and the layout of the wheels and the motors and the back half and everything were all completely different from the semi. So I was like, it's not. I don't know if you can make the same argument that it's like it's built on the semi platform, because it really isn't. So, though at the same time, I agree, it would be amazing if they actually made that.
It'd be more of a similarity between like the 3 and Y almost in terms of their building or manufacturing processes. It'd be like, yeah, they look the same, but they're actually a lot different in terms of how they're built.
Yeah, if you're sitting in the front row of a 3 and Y, it's almost impossible to tell. It's just a little bit taller, but outside of that, they're very, very similar. So, semi, though, that involves a complete redesign other than maybe the front half. Outside of that, you need a completely different approach, but I don't know. Wouldn't that be too wide?
It'd be big. I mean, even Elon said that it's technically not legal, or it's technically legal, but shouldn't be. I think it's his words. So it would have been possible. It'd be what Nick wanted, is some huge vehicle on the road that barely fits in the lanes and garners all the attention anyways, even though that Cybertruck does exactly the same in a smaller package.
Yeah.
See, that's what I'm hoping for, because Elon always talks about how he hates when the specs of the production model are worse than the prototype, and that's my only real concern of them saying, like, we're shrinking the Cybertruck by around 3%, which, by the way, I hate how much they ping pong on this. I hate when it goes back and forth. I reviewed the design. We can't make it smaller. The prototype is about how big it'll actually be. And then back on the podcast, well, Jay Leno tried to drive through a hole and it didn't fit very well, so we're going to shrink it. Like, oh, that's your reason? The Boring Company?
The Boring Company.
I didn't like that reason.
Yeah, it seemed a little bit of a cop out, almost like, yeah, we're kind of making it future proof, but it might not be the best for what people wanted. Though I guess 3%, it's maybe noticeable, but it's almost like the new tailgate on my Y that was installed. Like, you could barely tell that it's a different tailgate just because of the color, but it's still the same vehicle.
Slight, very
slight.
So
other than the Cybertruck news, did you like any other part of the podcast?
Yeah, I was going to say the Cybertruck news was the saddest part of the podcast, But the most exciting part of the Joe Rogan podcast was that not only has Elon brought back the DeLorean's aesthetic in the Cybertruck, but he has, hopefully, single-handedly brought about the future that we've all been waiting for decades. Actually, since like the 40s, we've all been waiting for this future. The hover car is coming in the 2022 Tesla Roadster.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe.
I can't believe that car.
I am still confused by how he talks about it. It still doesn't make sense to me. He's still like, I want it to hover. And I'm like, I interpreted that as in like on certain angles when you activate the SpaceX air cannon package, it would go airborne, which is crazy in itself, but it's believable. I'm like, okay. We saw the Model X do that thing in the Bay Area where it's like full speed uphill and it kind of goes. Yeah, it's like, okay, the Roadster will float. But the way he talks about it with Joe, he's saying like it will just in place actually hover like 3 feet off the ground. Which I'm like, wait, no?
It doesn't have that much fuel necessarily.
Didn't you see Iron Man? I mean, it's possible. They just need to get the whatever thing he's in Tony's heart and put it in the wheels. The arc reactor, yeah. And then it works. So
it's a very scientifically sound technology.
My thought with the hovering ability or feature is that he kind of mentioned in the podcast that you could be going fast and then activate it, and that's what my thought was as well, is that you'd be going like maybe 60 miles per hour or something like that, maybe 40 to be safe. Activate the SpaceX boosters, and you kind of do a nice little hop on a very straight road. I don't think you'd want to do it on a turn because then you're going off the embankment into whatever shoulder that is behind there. Or
at least you'll go over the road barrier.
It'd be the coolest way to die.
As crazy as this sounds, I understand that it sounds crazy. I'm not taking that away. I would say this would be useful in drag races because now, drag races happen linearly, right? You don't have to turn or anything. Most of the acceleration, obviously, happens with the tires touching the road, but we're getting to a point with the 2022 Roadster now that the limiting factor is that it cannot get enough friction. And so that's why they're adding the SpaceX package to give it that little bit extra boost to get it past that 1.9 seconds or whatever. I could totally see some way to make the car just hover basically a couple inches off the ground, just enough so that there's no longer that
at a high
friction.
speed.
Yeah, at the high speed. So it launches with the tires.
Yeah.
It gets up to some V1 speed where it starts to hover. Maybe it's aerodynamic or something, and then it no longer is providing thrust via the wheels. It's now using the SpaceX package solely, which will allow it to have less friction because we know these cars are very aerodynamic, and most of the friction is road friction at this point. And so if they can remove road friction and still provide a lot of thrust via the SpaceX package, and it's a straight track, you could book it down that track as fast as an ICBM.
I just don't think it has that much fuel though, Nick.
It's only a quarter mile, so you don't. It just needs to go really fast for like a quarter mile. So,
well, how long do you think it's gonna hover? Like 5 seconds?
It'll just kind of, how like a stone when you skip it on the pond, it'll hover for like just a second and then come back down. Like that's all you need to get to the speed where it hovers for a little second, and then after you exhaust your fuel and you pass the finish line, you come back down to Earth.
Do you know how long a rock is in the air when you're skipping it over the water?
And that's like actual rocket fuel. This is just compressed air, right?
Yeah, no, I think they definitely need actual rocket fuel. So the problem with Elon's hovering theory is there's no energy source dense enough to be able to provide that kind of hovering that is not some kind of combustible material, whether that's a chemical propellant or some kind of a reaction-based propellant.
Wouldn't you argue that goes against their message?
I know, it totally does, ideology? But if you want the green stuff, you get the long-range Model 3s. I think what we identified as being the best efficient. Well, no. It's like you get the longest range with the best charging time with the least amount of energy used in any Tesla.
With a solar roof.
With the solar roof, exactly. You got to get that solar roof. But then with the $250,000 vehicle that can hover, I mean, Tesla just wants to knock out, just KO all of the competition, so that when we get the Mach-E say, oh, yeah, but we have a center dial, Tesla can be like, aha, does your car fly? And they're just like, but it's a Mustang. It has Mustang DNA, and like, oh yeah, does your car fly still? No, exactly.
I still have a hard time believing the hover part. I believe Tesla, and I believe the specs they put on their website. But when it comes to Elon on a podcast saying it'll hover around 3 feet, I'm trying to visualize it, and it sounds so ridiculous that I can't wrap my brain around it.
Visualize it. Just pull it Back to the Future. The DeLorean hovers.
I'm thinking... No, I mean, in a movie, yeah, I can imagine a floating car, but I'm imagining some guy pulling up at a supercharger and being like, watch this, guys, and just, the amount of, like, stabilizers and thruster, the amount of thrusters you'd have to put on that vehicle to prevent it from just, flipping over in the wind, and a whole suite of sensors that cars don't have currently to think about, like, when you're airborne, how do you make sure you're stable and that kind of thing, and... I'm glad they're putting this much crazy thought into the Roadster, because I genuinely think that the Plaid Model S has killed a lot of the appeal of the Roadster. The fact that it's delivering this month is crazy.
Yeah.
Who knows? There could be first deliveries by the time this podcast is
sure hope so.
Going up. Some article I read said that Model X deliveries with the new design are supposed to be between February 15th and March 15th, so very quickly. And now that, that when the Roadster was unveiled, it was incredible and all these amazing specs. And now the Model S is basically matching all those specs, except for range. Mm-hmm. But you have a four-door, 5-seater sedan, and it's way more practical. It's not just a weekend car, but your very practical family car can now do 0 to 60 under 2 seconds. So... I agree. They have to do something with the Roadster to make it just that much better. They have to make it extra. They have to make the Plaid Model S seem slow, which is very challenging because, like Elon said, it'll hit 60 before you clear the intersection at a red light.
Oh my gosh! Oh. Yes,
that sounds scary.
Sound scary, but also kind of cool. Like, and also, where would you use that? Without breaking the law?
Everywhere. I don't know. There are certain stoplights on the freeway.
Yeah. I would say at least for trying to make the Roadster more appealing, or a better contender, I guess, against the Model S, probably just cannibalize that whole entire second row, quote unquote, I guess. Those seats, I don't think even you and I could fit in it, Drew. No. Being in the back.
We'll sure try.
I was for the record, I was planning on sitting in one of the back seats and removing the driver's seat. That was my plan. So go ahead.
That's how you fit in the Roadster. Yeah, no, I was just gonna say replace those seats, like basically make a wall almost of just compressed air or whatever they're using for the Roadster's propulsion, and then have a little bit of space in the back for surfboards, or if you can even fit a surfboard back there. Some storage, because I think right now, I don't think even the front of the Roadster has storage option. It's mainly just the rear hatch.
I don't think there's a frunk on the Roadster.
No. I wonder. Which surprises me.
Which is a shame.
They just have everything up there or something. But yeah, just
Point
go
to the Tesla Semi again.
Semi does have a frunk. You're not
has
wrong.
A frunk.
Sadly, Roadster you can't open it on the model. Yeah.
I know. That would have been cool.
But there are pictures.
Well. So you're saying... Am I understanding your point correctly that you think they should basically just scrap the 4-seater version of the Roadster? Just be like that. We're not even going to make that an option.
I think they can kill that metric on the site saying, "Oh yeah, it seats 4, quote unquote." Just get rid of that. It wasn't even like no one even thought about that. I mean, they all gasped when Elon's like, "It can seat 4," but of course, people probably looked in there like, "No, you don't seat 4 in there. You're cramming kids in there and
4 seatbelts." Yeah. But I think I agree, because my main point of view is that, like, someone who can afford a Roadster, probably this is not their only car. And kind of the primary advantage of having a 4-seater is that, you can take other adults or kids with you, and it's not just you and one other person. And, Roadster, I think, almost everybody who's planning on getting one is planning on that being a secondary, like, weekend car, their performance car that they have fun with. It's not meant to be like the practical one. So why are we even trying to make it somewhat practical with the 4-seater? But I mean, Elon talked about it on Joe's podcast, saying that they still plan on having the 4-seater, which
that'll be the base option,
I guess. But
base option.
So I just did the armchair astronaut equivalent of looking at Wikipedia and coming up with a solution here. So if Elon wants it to hover with current technology, no arc reactors or anything, I would recommend that he uses Super Draco thrusters, which they already use on the SpaceX Dragon capsules, which are the launch escape engines. They are a hypergolic propellant, which means that you get a chemical reaction, which is super reliable and finely tunable. All you have to do is open 2 valves. They're 2 liquids that combust immediately on contact with each other. So very, very toxic, extremely. The propellant that they use is...
I love how you brought that up.
It's not going to be something you refill at the gas station. The propellant they're using for the Super Draco thrusters is monomethyl hydrazine and dinitrogen tetroxide. And these 2 propellants are extremely deadly. Like, you inhale the vapors of them, you die. So
sounds awesome.
This wouldn't be used... There'd have to be a very controlled environment, like only on a prepared racetrack, like only with the Tesla people coming and filling it up, and like, okay, so hear me out. These thrusters create about 16,000 pound-feet of thrust, about 71,000 newtons, and so that means the Roadster would only need about one of these Super Draco thrusters to hover. So they stick it in the center of mass of the vehicle.
Where are the batteries?
Then they move the batteries around. I don't know. This is Nick's. This is Nick's hypothetical.
This might throw off your handling.
I would think it's like maybe a board that you punch a hole through.
Who cares? You fly. Exactly. And they have in the Crew Dragon they have 1,388 kilograms or 3,000 pounds of propellant. So that's I don't know how dense these liquids are, but I think about 3,000 pounds of propellant would be a little bit too much. I think we could get away with about 1,000 pounds of propellant of these 2 very toxic liquids just to get us that launching capability down the strip, and so. We get rid of the back seat and we replace those with 2 tanks for these 2 liquids, which are, again, highly dangerous, highly combustible, like grade 4 on that scale that you see on the trucks at both toxicity and explosivity and reactivity. So
maybe the cameras will
detect
dangerous. People around it and be like, "You can't float here. There's people."
No, I think it will have to be something you have to get permits for. It'll be so
cool.
How long do the Super
FAA.
Draco thrusters fire for? Like, what's the duration of their firing?
Yeah, so with the current setup that they have on the Crew Dragons, they will fire for about 25 seconds. Their burn time is 25 seconds, giving... Yeah, maybe. So, well, but again, instead of using 8 of these Super Draco thrusters, we're only going to be using 1. So I think we could easily get about 30 seconds to a minute of flight time out of 1 Super Draco thruster and 1,000 pounds of propellant. So that would give us a chemical reaction with enough energy density to sustain hovering for between 30 seconds and a minute, which would allow us to do multiple runs of these high-speed drag races where you have 0 friction on the ground friction, at least. You still have
Where would you refuel your car then? Because I don't think Exxon has this fuel.
No.
You have to go to a gas station.
You'd have to set something up with Tesla, and they'd have to send a truck that has monomethyl hydrazine and nitro. What is this one? Dinitrogen.
I don't want that driving through my neighborhood.
Texro oxide. Yeah. No one would want this. This is like, those little danger labels that they have on like the semis that have the diamond, the death diamonds is what they're called. This is 4 on all of them. This is maximum reactivity, maximum flammability, maximum lethality. It's like fun the chemicals, but you get a lot of energy density. That's why they use these in rockets, because there's a lot of energy density, and the engines can be super simple. It doesn't. the engines, these Super Draco thrusters, are basically just a combustion chamber with 2 valves. All you have, there's no igniters, no lighter fluid. It's just 2 valves, and as soon as the liquids come in contact with each other, they spontaneously combust. So, SpaceX, if you're listening to me, help Elon out with that, with your Super Draco thrusters.
You figured it out, Nick.
Yeah, I would say if Tony Stark can make his suit fly with a small arc reactor and then extrapolate that to a Hulkbuster that can fly, I think Elon can maybe do something with the cold gas thrusters. But yeah, maybe arc reactor technology might be helpful in this case, because I'm a little bit scared of having a Super Draco thruster on my car if I ever own the Roadster, which I don't think I ever will, and having to get it refueled by a maxed out Death Diamond tanker and possibly dying because there's just way too much risk. I don't even know how the U.S. government would say okay, but ugh.
Well, but it would have a 5-star safety rating. You can't deny that. Tesla would not allow it to not have a 5-star.
Great. It will be literally impossible for it to roll over because the air thrusters just reverse it whenever it tips too far. It just,
there you go.
The cannons go off and fix it. Self-correct.
Well, it'll have the best crumple zone and a 5-star safety rating. But if the 1,000 pounds of liquid in your back row touch each other, there will be a crater the size of Cincinnati.
We do this in Chico.
It's kind of like, yeah, perfect. It'll probably be like GTA, how you can like control the pivot of your vehicle midair.
That's cool.
That's why it's a yoke, so you can.
Oh, that makes sense. You could get the Z-axis too. Oh my gosh.
This is a nightmare.
This is perfection.
Elon, I love you, man. This is the kind of crazy stuff that I love to hear. Like everyone on the internet, like, oh, Elon talking about flying cars again. He's so silly. I'm like, you know what? He might be crazy, but it's the crazy ones who actually get things done.
I'd much rather have a crazy CEO than another standard like run-of-the-mill basic.
Good morning.
Just
less MBAs.
Here are earnings. Just kind of tweeting random stuff occasionally that's not very interesting. Elon makes things very interesting. So I wonder if they will decide ultimately, because I'm not sure if the Roadster can be much faster than the Plaid Model S without the SpaceX package. So if at that point, you're right, just make it a standard thing. Make it like every Roadster has a SpaceX package. There's no optional extra. That's just built in, because if you do want a 4-seater, get a Model S. I don't like if traction's the main limiting factor when going faster than 1.9 seconds 0 to 60, and it doesn't matter that the Roadster is lighter or can exert more torque or more horsepower, because at the end of the day the wheels are just going to end up spinning out anyway, then yeah, I think that makes sense. Make the SpaceX package a standard thing. Probably full self-driving too, if you're dropping that kind of money on a car.
Yeah.
I'd be pretty surprised.
Yeah, that should not be an add-on.
I'm so unsure how
premium connectivity.
The interface is going to be for full self-driving on the Roadster, because that screen is very vertical and arced.
Yeah.
You don't really get too much like screen area that the Model Y or the new Model S has. It's
Here's a good question for you guys. Do you think we'll see a refreshed interior of the Roadster before this thing goes into production?
I think so.
Yeah. I think it's likely, just because the Model S and X interior got refreshed with like no warning, and that was pretty major. And my guess is they want something similar to that in the Roadster probably. I mean, at this point the S and X have better infotainment systems than the Roadster does, with screen space and the driver screen and all that. So it was probably just the prototype design they came up with to make it look futuristic and cool, but if it's entering production next year, they want it to be a bit more practical.
And what changes do you think they'll make? Do you think they'll have that steering wheel that goes all the way around? Because we got to have the steering wheel in a circle. There's no way that anyone could have a yoke steering wheel on a road. It's illegal, folks. We can't do it.
No, the yoke on the S and X now makes me feel like the yoke is definitely staying on the Roadster now that they've found a way to legalize that. Maybe it's slightly tweaked from the prototype, but I think a 17-inch landscape display of some kind, something that maybe looks a bit more futuristic and modern than the Model 3. I don't think they'd just put in a basic screen like that. Maybe they go all out with it, give it like super thin bezels and mini LED, really good contrast ratio, because it's just like the dream car, right? This is supposed to be just all out with everything. So I could see them wanting to have a larger screen so that GPS and infotainment are still really high up. To me, I always complained about that over the years when they unveiled the Roadster. It's like, that screen looks horrible.
Yeah.
I mean, it looks cool from a side picture of the Roadster. It's like, oh, it's all clean and modern in there. But from a practicality standpoint, trying to change settings and type things, where do I put my phone? There's all these complexities that comes around with that I could definitely see that being just the prototype style. Probably put a more Model S looking driver display right beyond the yoke, and HEPA filter.
17-inch screen on that thing would look huge, by the way.
Yeah,
because it's a small car.
Yes,
I've seen it up close.
Right,
it's not that big necessarily compared to a Model Y that it was parked next to at the shareholder meeting. So putting a Model S, maybe a vertical 17-inch Model S screen might be the way to go, since there's not too much space.
It all comes down to the bezel. You could fit a 17-inch display in the same footprint as the Model 3 and Y screen if you just shrunk the bezels down enough, which is expensive, which is why they don't do it. But with the Roadster, you don't really care about expensive. You're going all out. So that's why I'd say something big that's functional. Yes, I want to play Cyberpunk on the Roadster. Please make that a thing. Fit that 10 teraflop gaming.
Put that computer to good use.
Yeah. Put some. If they do the 4-seater, they got to put a screen back there. Little 8-inch screen will feel huge.
So far, oh my god!
I can kind of see the screen.
I don't know. Yeah, just barely. What other changes do you think they'll make, Mike?
I don't know. I can't fathom this vehicle. I've seen it, but all the specs that they're saying just makes me not believe in what they're talking about. Being able to hover and being able to do a quarter mile, and I guess it has to be high 8 or low 9 seconds. It's just astounding. Honestly, I would say I would hold out for a Cyber Roadster, so that way I don't have to worry about scratches on this $250,000 vehicle that can hover.
Yes.
I'd go for that. Stainless steel would look good. There's a few renders online that look beautiful.
I agree.
What kind of seat belts do you think it'll have? If this is as extreme as we're thinking, it's not going to be the standard 1-point seat belt. It's going to be a 5-point harness style seat belt. If this is actually going all out, a lot of these Ferrari FFs or F1s or whatever, or these fancy schmancy racing cars that I don't know much about, their interior is super bare bones because they want to be as lightweight as possible, and they have racing seat belts. I wouldn't be surprised especially if it hovered, that they'd want to give you some kind of better seat belt. I don't know. What do you think?
With Elon on the Joe Rogan Experience, he mentioned that with advanced airbag technology and Tesla's seatbelts are kind of redundant.
I love that part of the podcast. I think it's fantastic engineering and programming as well, with being able to be we don't really need seatbelts. The airbags will deploy. We're pretty confident on that, and the pressure distribution on your seat confirms enough that if you're listing too far to the left or right, you'll be fine, because the airbag will just deploy in that manner, and it's got a variable force, so you're not going to just get hit with a
That's true.
crazy amount of force to your body, and you're just
I didn't know that. That was really interesting, that part about weight distribution, and it can tell how heavy the person in the seat is. It can tell if it's a child versus a adult, and how to deploy the airbags in the best way. I mean, Tesla loves to push the limits of what's legal, so I imagine they're already talking to someone about removing seatbelts now. I don't do
I'd be
nothing.
all for it. I'd be all for it. That's the self-driving future.
If your airbag system is good enough.
Yeah. No, obviously. Yeah. You have to have the approved airbag system.
It would confuse police everywhere.
That's true. You're right. You need to wear a seatbelt. There is none.
Sorry,
officer.
my car doesn't have a seatbelt. And he's like, what?
It's okay, officer.
Wait a
The airbag will deploy and I'll be fine. What?
Watch. It's a demo mode. They'll have like you know how dog mode on the screen is like my owner will be back soon. They need a button that says show this if an officer says you need a seatbelt on. It just plays a video that says Teslas have such an advanced airbag system you don't need seatbelt. I could see them doing something weird like that.
That would be pretty funny.
I find that idea funny. Just you and the police officer on the side of the road watching the center console video.
And then they're both. He's in the passenger seat now. He's just like, so how much is this?
What's your referral code?
Yeah, I think we need one for the Force.
You can order one right on the Tesla.
Did y'all see that video of the guy who got pulled over in his Model 3 back when it was like really new? And the cop thought that he had a gaming monitor. Like,
you can't put your laptop on the center console, sir.
He's like,
I can't take
but it came with my car. And he's like, what?
I love how he thought he was joking at first. Like the cop said, you can't have a computer monitor up there. And he was like, oh, that's he's like, that's actually how I like, that's my speedometer. And the cop looks at the car. He's like,
what is this?
Oh, there's nothing there. But
he's like, what kind of car is this?
It's a Tesla.
It's funny too because cops always have laptops in the front seat.
I know, right?
But cops are buying Teslas now.
Yeah,
that's true.
My hometown has a few Teslas
really?
coming to it. Yeah, good old Redding, California is I think getting one or two of them. And that'll be pretty exciting.
I guess it's time to break the law in Redding, California, so we can see them Teslas up close and personal.
If you want to see them, drive safe.
I guess that is a good way to get a free ride in a Tesla.
Get arrested.
You might not have a choice in destination.
I bet it's really easy to prevent people from opening the door. They just kind of deactivate that button.
Exactly.
In the back seat.
True.
Whereas on normal cop cars, they have to replace the whole panel so that there's no door handle. With that, it's just like, just make that
Click
button.
the button all you want, buddy.
That button doesn't work. It's just a little software feature. But isn't Redding still superchargeless?
So it sounds like they're going a little bit. Oh, that was me. It sounds like they're going a little bit more towards electric vehicles. Just from how the council is shifting, which, I mean, of course, politics. We love talking about politics and electric cars.
It's fun,
of course.
But I think it's going in the right direction. They were very much against superchargers for a while. Frugal Tesla guy on YouTube has a little bit more information on that if you ever want to check out his YouTube. But he talked to me about it when I was showing off the Model Y to him at some point. And he was very disappointed in the city council for Redding just because they were very anti-EV. They didn't want to introduce any superchargers, which is weird because you would think that brings in more people from LA or Washington who are going on I-5. But
high-income people, too, at that.
Yeah, exactly. Go into Trader Joe's. Go to this place, buy some things.
I guess the police force doesn't agree with that.
No, apparently not. I think they're more of getting a mandate, or at least like they're basically getting money to buy these vehicles. So I don't think they're buying it on their own necessarily. But it definitely impresses me that they're making this step forward. I know that a lot of towns and cities in the United States have adopted these, and even other countries have adopted Model 3s and Model Ys as these really cool patrol vehicles. And they're not necessarily the same as a Ford that is the typical look of a cop car that you see on the road.
Yeah.
It doesn't have all the capabilities.
It's the future.
But I think it serves great as a highway pursuit vehicle because it's got great acceleration at any speed. And it'd be able to stop anyone. And it's so safe and strong that if someone tried ramming it, it would stay pretty still. The other car would bounce off of it or just stop.
And they can be very quiet when they need them to be, which I've heard police officers say is helpful. Cybertruck would make a great cop car.
Just hiding behind an alley
Some
with
might
a
say
Cybertruck.
Blade Runner.
Yeah. I can just imagine that little high beam light bar with all the different colors.
Yeah.
On the top.
Just like you're a criminal running away from the cops, and you turn down a dark alley and you're running, and then at the end of the dark alley you just see the light bar just illuminating, just like.
And the boombox mode will play the Mad Max song. I would love that. Oh man, I hope they make more cyber stuff. I want more. I mean, someone was telling me, yeah, Cyber Roadster, Cyber SUV. Someone was telling me that Elon said Cybertruck is going to be unique. That means they'll never do another one like it again.
No.
I'm like, I don't think that's what he meant by unique. He meant that he wanted the Cybertruck to be different from pickup trucks.
Exactly.
Not, we will only make one steel vehicle and we will never do another one. I don't think that's what he meant, but
that'd be alienating a huge demographic that loves the cyber aesthetic.
Yeah. Especially if mass production goes well and they still have a huge amount of demand for it, then yeah, it'd be kind of stupid to be just like, yeah, we're only going to make one. That's it. Even though everyone loves it and it's really affordable to build, we don't care.
Seems like a legacy auto approach, honestly. Oh, everyone loved this style for our Lexus or something, and then we just stopped. No more LFA.
But that's old. Cybertruck design is timeless. It's iconic now. It's like it doesn't fit into any like time period. It kind of surpasses all that. It feels like you could have seen it in the 80s and it would have fit just as much as it fits today.
It probably wouldn't have fit super well in the 1780s.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Less so. Well, it would look like it's from the future, whether it came out today or the 1780s.
I mean, 1980 Datsun would also look like it was from the future in the 1780s. So,
but not today.
Yeah,
very true.
Less so. It's future of all times. It's the future of any time period.
I can only imagine George Washington driving a Cybertruck.
No, Mike, we have to make that happen.
We should. That's the next thing. Okay, Elon might be able to make the 2022 Roadster hover, but I want those Cybertruck to go back in time. Like, that's all I want.
It's not too much to ask.
Just Elon, just figure it out. Just like Tony Stark, your protege in the MCU, spend about 20 minutes figuring out how time travel works, and
20 minutes.
Then
Call
you're
it
good.
A day.
Exactly. No, it was in the evening, I think, and his little daughter heard the bad word. So, you know,
that's right.
That's how you know Elon is gonna finish time travel.
Yeah, he can't figure out.
Words?
I was gonna say he can't like work out propulsive flight of the Roadster, but he definitely can figure out time travel with the Cybertruck somehow.
That seems relatively easy. Yeah,
apparently.
Yep.
No, I mean I'd say
figure out if the Roadster has gear stocks. I don't think it does.
I think it had little paddles on the back, if I recall.
Oh, that's what it is. Yeah, a little.
Yeah.
They didn't even do that on the S though.
I did want to note my predictions from the ending 2020 episode of the Taylors of Podcast are definitely blown out of the water. Definitely thought that the Plaid Model S was going to be coming out late this year, and which I guess it is the one that we thought is coming out later this year. I just didn't think that they were going to refresh the Model S and make it so appealing somehow so soon.
You were kind of right and kind of wrong simultaneously. It was like, well, they didn't get the 4680s out in time, but they did get the Plaid powertrain out way ahead of schedule. So
I'm surprised that they're getting such a good yield rate on the 4680s already.
Yeah, that was really exciting to hear. I'm guessing that they're probably going to just mass produce a bunch and then start shipping them off to Berlin, and Nevada should be producing them as soon as April, which is probably going straight into the semi-truck. So hopefully we can see. I hope those numbers are accurate about the like several thousand semi-trucks coming out this year. That sounds incredible. Oh, it'll be gorgeous to see. Just they're not going to be able to keep those covered up. You know how the S and X were like under blankets at the Fremont factory. The semi, if they start mass producing, it will be a very, very easy to spot thing. You will notice it very quickly.
They just need a really big awning right next to Giga Nevada or Fremont.
Yeah,
you can't.
They're building these things in a tent.
Yeah,
they're a very tall tent.
Pretty sure my Y was built in a tent.
Probably. High chance.
That makes a lot of sense, actually, looking at all the quality control issues.
Yeah, it's not too bad, honestly. I mean, it sounds terrible. A lot of people bag on Fremont, and it is a Fremont problem. It's not a Tesla problem necessarily. It's more.
Yeah.
I mean, I think Elon put it really well, that it's hard to change the tires on a vehicle when it's going down the highway at 70 miles per hour. I think he said that with Sandy Monroe.
But if it was floating and hovering, it wouldn't be a problem. We'll leave that there.
Do you have any closing thoughts, Nick?
No, I don't. I think all my thoughts were closed already. So
gotcha.
I think we're done.
Thanks for watching. We'll see you all next week. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.